Hello, hello, hello. Happy New Year. I'm recording this on the 1st of January 2024, or 2023, crossed out the 3 and then 4, that I'm going to be doing for the next 3 months or so. And today we are going to be flying from Newcastle in the northeast of England to Lille in the north of France. And I've chosen a slightly circuitous route, but there aren't any flights from Newcastle to Lille. I've had to slightly adapt a flight plan that I found from Edinburgh to Lille. So that flew from Edinburgh down to Newcastle and then out over the North Sea to the south, out over Brugge, whatever, and then down to Lille. So you can see here I'm in SimBrief. I mentioned this last time. I've done a video about setting up a flight plan in SimBrief. We'll go through very quickly setting up a flight plan for this flight in SimBrief as well. This is free. I'm averse to spending money. I do like free stuff, and Navigraph has created this amazing free tool with loads of good. It basically lets you export a PDF with your flight plan on it and all of your charts and lots of good information. So I'll show you all that in a moment. Let's just quickly start off with the route. So we're going to take off from Newcastle. We're probably going to take off towards the west initially because of the winds. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a long right-hand turn to bring us back over the airfield, and that is where our flight plan will begin. We then head off out over the North Sea, and if I just scroll down the left, you can see our route here. So Nateb is a waypoint that sits at Newcastle Airport. So we're going to intercept Nateb in our climb. We're then going to join the Mike 981. Let me just zoom in just a touch because I think you might be struggling to see that a little bit if you're on a fairly low res. We'll be joining the Mike 981 airway. So these are predefined routes between points that aircraft fly. So we'll be joining the M981 airway down to our first waypoint here, which is Godos, and then to Amgod. And at Amgod, we'll be joining the Lima 74 airway down to Tulip. I'm not quite sure where Tulip ends. I'm guessing it's probably there. And then we'll be leaving the L74 airway straight down here to Koa, and then down here, in fact, let me just update this. So we have an arrival, which is starting from Civ, just reanalyze that route. This will then bring us down to the south of Lille. So we join the arrival, the standard terminal arrival route at Civ, and then we'll follow this path round here, and then we'll fly into Lille. So yeah, this is going to be our route. So it does say here that the route distance in total is 416 nautical miles. You may be wondering what that 30% plus is. Because we're not just going in a straight line, because we want to avoid a lot of the busy airways that are over the north, across the United Kingdom, in particular across London, we are just going to miss all that out and just go out over the North Sea and come down here. The other routes that are available to us, I'm going to have to just zoom out a touch. So just suggest some other routes. So we can go this way, for example, out over Manchester, out over the busy North London area, cut across the London Stansted. Is that? My knowledge of London is not great. I think that would take us across Stansted, down over Dover, and then out towards Lille this way. And you can see even that one has a 33% increase on distance rather than just a straight line. So it's just as easy for us to do this, and then I'll put our arrival back in 5D. Reanalyze, and that then gets baked into the flight plan. Let's start at the top up here, and we can then just make sure that everything's correct. So we are flying a 737 BBJ, and if you're not familiar with this, this is a Boeing business jet. This is a private 737. So we're not flying for any airline, we're not flying with any flight number, we're flying from Newcastle. If I move my mouse over that, the little cloud, we get the weather report, the METAR, to EGNT 1st of the month, 13:50 Zulu, so that's 1:50 p.m. Zulu time. Current wind is 290 degrees, so the wind is from 290 degrees, so a little bit, it's west, northwest, west, northwest, yeah, west-ish, and it's blowing at 10 knots. So that's not too far off the centre line of the runway, and it's only 10 knots, which is more than within the tolerance of the 737. The scattered cloud at 1,800 feet. 9999 means effectively unlimited visibility. Current temperature is 0.6 Celsius, and the dew point, which is where if you cooled a block of air at Newcastle down to 3 degrees, that would be when it would start to condense into clouds. So for every 1,000 feet that you climb, the air temperature reduces by 2 degrees. So if the temperature is going to decrease by 3 degrees, that takes us to about 1,500 feet above the ground. And you can see we've got scattered cloud at 1,800 feet, so it's about right. Okay, so we call this the adiabatic lapse rate, which is a really technical term for the air cools by 2 degrees for every 1,000 feet that you climb. These are the things that you have to learn when you're taking when you learn to fly, basically. Q0996. So this is QNH, which means this is the altimeter setting that you need, the pressure setting that you need on your altimeter to show to set the height, the elevation of the airfield above mean sea level. So it's actually quite a low pressure day, which means that well, basically we just need to set the pressure to be 0996. I'll come to that in a moment. So this is automatically selected LFPG, which is, if my memory serves, is Charles de Gaulle. Does that give us any information about that? LFPG, Charles de Gaulle. So if we can't get into Lille for whatever reason, we will divert into Charles de Gaulle. Charles de Gaulle's got plenty of runways and yeah, good medical equipment if our virtual passengers aren't feeling particularly well. So flying the BBJ, standard climb profile, so we'll start off with a limitation of 250 knots below 10,000 feet. That's an international standard, and that just keeps planes flying relatively slowly so that if there's any planes heading towards each other, then they can be steered away from each other. And then the climb will be, after 10,000 feet, it will either be 280 knots or Mach 0.78, whichever one the aircraft is capable of at the weight and the altitude that we're at. Cruise cost index will be given to us after we've hit generate flight plan up here, and the cost index will effectively determine the performance of the aircraft, most notably in the climb, but yeah, just things like takeoff speeds and that sort of thing will be affected by that too. And then descent profile will be effectively the reverse, so we'll either descend at 0.78 Mach or 280 knots down to 10,000 feet, and then 250 knots thereafter. We're not going to change the fuel. The SimBrief normally gives you plenty of reserve fuel, and you'll see that in a moment. Our call sign today will be Golf Romeo India Charlie Hotel. So Golf at the beginning means that it's a British or UK registered aircraft. Rich is because we are obviously rich because we have a private 737, and my name is Rich. So there we go. Registration, Golf Romeo India Charlie Hotel. VIN number, we don't tend not to use these in the UK. I know in America, the airlines generally have a registration, but they also have what's called a ship number, and they generally put the fin as the ship number, I believe. I'm not an expert on that, but I have seen like a number that doesn't relate to the registration of the aircraft on the fin, and also potentially on the nose landing gear doors also have the ship number on. In the UK, Jet2, for example, they've bought a load of new planes from Boeing, and they're generally registered as G, JZ, and then 2 letters, and then those 2 letters are what's put on the fin and on the nose gear doors. I'm just going to put ICH. I don't think this really makes a big difference to anything today. Cell call is selective calling, and this is a way that, particularly when you're over the Atlantic or oceanic routes, then you can have really poor radio signal. They use what's called HF, high frequency, and if it's not as high quality, and it's got a lot of static on it. So what you find pilots will do is they will generally tune it down so that it doesn't just have all the time in their ears. Now, what the air traffic controllers will do is they will send them a selective calling ping to the address, or that's the code that's there, and they'll get a bing bong, and then that means they can put their headsets on, turn the volume up, and then they can listen out for their radio calls. Just out of interest, I've never flown oceanic myself. I've learned all this largely through watching some really good videos by a company called ITTV. I think it was called something like Intelligent Television and Video, so ITVV, and they did a lot of cockpit videos covering lots of oceanic travel and it's 767s crossing the Atlantic. There's a really good video of an A330 flight from Manchester to Orlando, and they cover all this stuff because the co-pilot, the first officer, he is new to long haul flying, so it's basically an instruction video for him, and obviously we get to ride along and learn as he does. So that's all really interesting. So cell call today is just ABRS, but we won't need that at all. As you can still probably tell by my voice, still struggling with long COVID. It's been going on about 18 months to 2 years now. It's not fun, but it does give me a very sexy deep voice on these videos. So I'm just kidding. Let's keep going down. So we can choose the format of our flight plan. I just leave it as the standard, which is Lido. You can choose the specific airline standard, so BAW is British Airways. I've tried that, it's very hard to decipher. I'll just leave it as Lido. AIRAC is the information circular that we use for the navigation data. We're going to use pounds today. We want detailed flight maps. We are using instrument flight rules, where it's effectively an airline flight, even though it's a private flight. Taxi time 20 minutes. Yeah, so we're just gonna have one alternate. We're gonna go off to Charles de Gaulle. We want a detailed nav log. We don't really need ETOPS planning today. I don't think we'll need step climbs, but we'll leave that in for now. Just one thing I want to potentially override. We'll see what altitude it gives us. I think we will want to fly at about 39,000 feet today, flight level 390. So I think that is us ready to go. So if I go to generate flight, builds everything we need. I love this system. Navigraph have been extremely generous with us, giving us this for free. I generally go up here and hold down Control and click on View PDF, and then that gives me a separate tab in my browser where I can see the flight plan and everything in here, all of the weights, etc. We'll come back to that. You can see the cost index is going to be 40. Double check the details. What altitude has it assigned us? It's given us 39,000 feet. Perfect. So cost index of 40, so it's going to be a relatively frugal flight. That goes up to, I think it's 129, so below average. Route distance 429, so it's going to take us about an hour to do this. Average wind will be from 298, so the wind will be blowing from the north. It'll be a bit of a tailwind for basically all of the flight. It'll be a 61 knot tailwind. Wind component will give us an additional speed of 43 knots. ISA deviation. So ISA, I got this wrong when I did the Airbus A350 video from Barcelona to Heathrow. ISA is the International Standard Atmosphere, and that basically is it's 15 degrees Celsius day with a pressure of 1013.25 hectopascals. So this means that we are minus 4 degrees on the ISO temperature, which means that we'll actually have better performance. Aircraft, jet aircraft, pretty much all aircraft really, but jets in particular, work better with colder air because the air is denser. So for an amount of, I guess, suck from the big fan at the front of the jet, you're actually getting more oxygen into the engine to use to burn the fuel. This is the first time that I've generated this, at least today. I have actually done a little bit of this flight just as a practice because I'm very rusty on the 737. Let's have a look at RX cycle. Yeah, so I'm not using it up to date RX cycle. This will be, I will get a warning at some point saying it's out of date. That's fine. Some other things that we can do, we can do a flight plan download. I'll do that in a moment, so it's already in the system, in the flight management system when we get there. The other thing I'm going to do is pre-file on the network. I'll show you how to do this. This will load up VATSIM, and so it's already set up call sign, flight rules. We're flying a 737, it doesn't matter if it's a business Boeing jet or not. Boeing business jet, the air traffic controllers don't care. It's just really the class of aircraft that they really care about. We're going to take off at 14:30, which is in about 15 minutes. We'll have to get our skates on. 39,000 feet. Airspeed will file as 442. Arriving in Lille, alternate. That looks good. I don't know what that means. I'm guessing that this means flight level 230, so we'll be climbing at this point. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take those out. First of all, because I don't understand them, so I can't defend them if I'm asked about them by an air traffic controller. But mostly because I just don't know what they're for. And if that was flight level 230, I think we'll already be at cruise altitude by the time we get to Amgod. That's all good. This little find cell call. I don't know what any of that means. I do actually. This is so EGTT is the London FIR Flight Information Region name. So I'm guessing that's where we're going to be initially. We'll fly into the Amsterdam Centre, so the Amsterdam Flight Information Region, 26 minutes after after takeoff. Then we'll be potentially in Belgium, the Belgian Flight Information Region, 44 minutes after flight, and then into the French Flight Information Region, 54 minutes, and then potentially back into Belgium. So I'm guessing BU is, it won't be Brussels, will it? Because Brussels is quite far to the east in Belgium. Maybe that's that Brugge place. Anyway, file flight plan, and then when we get into the cockpit, what will happen is we'll put our call sign. We'll use XPilot today, so we'll fly online using VATSIM. And when we put our call sign in as G-Rich, then it will automatically sync up the flight plan to our aircraft. Okay, so we've filed online. I've got my PDF ready to go. The other thing is I did a quick search and I've found the AIP, which is the Aeronautical Information Publication for France. And so every single country, every ICAO country, so that's the countries that have all signed up to the international standards, all have an AIP which looks similar to this. The UK one looks identical to this. I think they even use the same software for it. But what we can do is we can go into the aerodromes and we get information about each individual aerodrome. So I clicked into Lille, and then I went to Cartes. Here I don't speak very good French, but this gives you all of the published procedures and charts, and I've downloaded some of them. So this gives us the aerodrome chart. So you can see, depending on the direction of the wind, I can't imagine between Newcastle and France that the wind is going to be completely opposite direction, but it does happen. So I'm planning for a runway 26 arrival, which is on a heading of 256 degrees magnetic. And so yeah, we'll set up the localizer to 110.75 later on, but yeah, we should be landing on 26. I would like us to, we're not going to land, we're not going to park at General Aviation, we're going to try and park here at the Bravo terminal. So we'll land, we'll let it roll, we'll try and come off at T4, Tango 4, turn right onto Papa 3, and then either onto Victor 3 or Victor 2 into the Bravo apron, and we'll just find somewhere up here to park when we get there. What else do we have charts wise? So So this is, that looks like Charlie, parking area Charlie, don't care about that. And this is our arrival route. So we'll actually be coming down to Civ at the top right here. We'll then be travelling down to Quebec 902, and then to here, which is Aspar, which is on our flight plan. And then from Aspar, we'll either route to the north and then turn in to land on runway 26 here, or if the winds are the other way around, we'll fly somewhere over here, and then we'll come back on ourselves and land on runway 08. I think that is us done. Right, so let's jump across to the cockpit. Okay, here we are in lovely Newcastle. Let me just quickly turn off. Whereabouts is it? This one here. Just so we can get a good view of this. This is XP12, which I think is looking very good these days. That sky, that sunset is just phenomenal. We're going to be flying towards that sun shortly. I still haven't shared my trick for getting rid of still some jaggedy lines down here, but yeah, there's a setting where you can turn on post-processed anti-aliasing in the settings, and it makes things look just a lot better than the standard is. So let me just quickly connect to, I'll bring the XPilot window back up. If you're not familiar with this, I can just expand this for a moment. Hit connect, so G-Rich. We're just going to fly as a 737-800. We don't want to get into the big conversation of what's a BBJ1. Don't care. We're a 737-800 effectively. I'm going to connect to VATSIM. Everything's looking good. So, it says cannot connect to speakers. This is because I have a very awkward setup. So I'm using my AirPods. AirPods. Right, so it's happy with the volume. Let's reconnect. Connect to VATSIM. Okay, it's happy now. So we may see some stations appear on the right hand side here. So here we have, so that's somebody that we'll be speaking to later on. If I double click on that, so it's Amsterdam radar, and it's W, so that's the west of Amsterdam. So we will be passing through his, I say his because if I move over there, it's someone called David, or maybe a lady called David. I think it's probably most likely to be a gentleman. So we're passing through his airspace, Amsterdam radar. No log off time, so that's fine. So there's not there's anybody else online, but we may be speaking to them later on. Let me just shrink that back down a bit. And the other thing I can do in here is if I press M, you can also see on the right hand side we've got XPilot as one of the layers we can apply to the map within XPlane. So if I click on that, you can see these planes appear. These are other nerds like me flying online on VATSIM. This has been added to the XPlane world by having XPilot open. Highly recommend it. It does massively help the realism. I really like the look of XPlane today. I don't know if it's just the time of day. It does do sunrise and sunset particularly well, better than Microsoft Flight Simulator, even I would say. But this is looking rather nice. Let's jump inside. And in fact, you know what you can do? I really like this. I really like this. So I can click on here and I can open the door. And I don't know why, but I like that a lot. And you can kind of see in the galley as well. Also notice as well that the engines are not on, they're just freewheeling in the wind. Just little things like that just make a big difference to me. Anyway, what you would normally do is you'd pull up one of these steps to the door, jump inside, but we'll just skip that bit because it's a simulator. And here we are inside the 737. The Boeing business jet is exactly the same. So I'm using the Zibo 737. It's fantastic, and again, it's free. Highly recommend it. Go onto forums.x-plane.org, search for Zibo, Z-I-B-O, and it'll give you the links to a Google Drive where you just download it and just pop it into your airplanes or your aircraft folder in X-Plane. But yeah, it's really realistic. I'm going to load up, you can't see this, but on my other screen, in fact, you know what? I can save this into, where shall I save this so you can see it into out? No, I'll just save it in the root of the X-Plane folder. Come on, save. Okay, it really wants me to put it in the output folder. So what I can do is go to plugins, Avitab, toggle tablet, charts, go up one level, up one level, up one level, up one level, output. Let's go to the bottom to here. So now we have the flight plan that we just created in SimBrief. We can now see it inside the X-Plane window. So 1st of January, Newcastle to Lille. It's a Boeing business jet version 1. There is a BBJ2 out now, which is just even more fancy. We are Golf Romeo India Charlie Hotel, blah, blah, blah. So all of this information will become very useful to us in a moment. The one thing I want to set up, oh, hang on. The one thing I want to set up first is our fuel. So we need 11.5 tons of fuel on board. So we go to fuel weight and balance, go to payload, go to fuel, 11,500 pounds of fuel. Just double check that is pounds. And then if we bring that back up again, we'll have a look at what payload we are taking. So payload is cargo and passengers. Total payload is 14.5 tons. So if we click on payload, apologies if you can just hear me clicking my mouse away. 14,500 tons. And you see this distributes it amongst male, female, kids into the various zones of the aircraft. It puts in some cargo. That seems very, very low for cargo for me, but let's just say it's a it is a private charter flight or whatever you want to call it today. Okay, so that is all set up. Next thing that we want to do is plug in fact, something else that I really like. If I go to, is it ground services? It is. Go to doors, not doors. Oh, you can open the overwing exits, that's cool. Air stairs. You can see here. Is it working? That's not working. So yeah, normally the stairs pop out. This is something that Ryanair asked Boeing to retrofit for them. I don't think it's fitted on this aircraft. Ah, that's terrible. Okay, so we'll plug in the GPU, so that's the ground power unit and the air start unit. So if we look outside now, we've now got a little bit of noise from the air start unit. So it's all plugged in. We've got the umbilicals. So that thicker pipe there is air blowing from this unit here into the air conditioning systems further back, and this little cable here is power, ground power, to power the aircraft. So if we look up here, I'll just slide across the cockpit, go down a little bit just so it's easy to see, and then if I look up, you can see we now have ground power available. You see that? So if I press down, it'll go clunk, and then it'll go ding, clunk, ding, there we go. And this now has given us power to the aircraft. A few things we're going to do to start off with. We're going to immediately arm the emergency exit lights. We'll turn on the no smoking signs. And then there's one thing that takes a while, so we want to do that first, is we want to get the inertial reference system, the IRSs, aligning. Do you know what we need to do first? I'm being very silly. We need to turn the battery on. And then if we come back up here, we should start to see this is on DC. And the align button will start to flash. Marvelous. The world is starting to make sense. Don't need to put the You are supposed to put that on. We don't need to put the dome light on. I did a practice flight last night and it was dark because I set this to real time. I did need the dome light on, but we don't today. Now there is a checklist built into the iPad thing on here, but I'm going to break the rules a little bit. I don't like doing this because I like to be quite strict about checklists when I'm flying myself. But for the purposes of today, I'm just going to follow a top to bottom, left to right scan of the overhead panel just to make sure everything's switched on. So while the IRSs are, oh, that's already working. So before the IRSs are aligned, that shouldn't allow me to set the yaw damper, but I'm guessing that I have set up a short alignment time on the IRSs and it's already aligned. Normally that takes between 7 and 10 minutes in the real aircraft. So anyway, yes, we've got the yaw damper on now, and that just stops the aircraft from swinging left and right. It just applies a little bit of counteracting effect so that you don't get a horrible left-right yawing motion. I think it also helps with coordinating turns, but I'm not too sure. Don't quote me on that. Let's keep going down. So our fuel temperature should mostly be our outside temperature, so that's 10 degrees, that's about 7. If we go down here, we should be able to see temperature outside is 6 degrees. The TAT is the temperature at tip. That's the total airframe temperature, which is basically the temperature at a temperature sensor outside. This will not be the ambient temperature because as we're flying through the air, there will be friction, so that the total airframe temperature will actually be hotter than the outside air temperature because of that friction. So if you looked at the TAT on Concorde, you would see that the TAT would actually be 127 degrees Celsius at cruise, even though the outside air temperature would be 53 degrees Celsius, minus 53 degrees Celsius. So let's keep going down. I never fiddle with these. You can change which screen is plugged into which source, so you can move the navigation display across to the left and to the right and all sorts of stuff. Hopefully we don't need to do that today. We'll just leave it as standard. Fuel temperature is good. I don't believe we'll have any fuel in our center tanks today. No. So we've got the fuel is evenly distributed between the left and the right wing. Nothing in the center. So you always use the fuel from the center first because the weight of the fuel in the wings has a dampening effect. So it stops the wings from wobbling about, and as the wings generate lift, the weight of the fuel in the wings kind of holds down the wings so that they don't have too much bending moment in them. So yeah, so we're going to turn off the fuel pumps. Oh no, hang on, I should turn them on. I'm going to leave those off, and we're going to turn on the wing fuel pumps for the wings. Okay, let's go up here. So this is a way that you can actually check the temperature of things. So I can actually check the voltage and the power supplied by various systems. So if I go to the battery, you can see that's providing 29 direct current DC volts, 115 AC volts, and a frequency of 400 hertz. So we turn on the battery. The cabin utility is on. So this is, I think is that the galley maybe? And then we've got the in-flight entertainment passenger seats. So that's the videos in the back of the seats. That's all on. These are all off for now because this is the IDG, the integrated drive generator. This is how we pull power from the engines. You can see these disconnect buttons are shielded. That's because you can't turn them back on once you turn them off until you're back on the ground. So you don't want to turn those off by mistake. These are showing warning signs because the engines aren't on at the moment. Still on ground power, we'll switch across to using the auxiliary power unit, the APU, in the tail, a little jet engine in the tail shortly. But for now, just while I'm talking through things, we don't want to burn fuel. The APU uses fuel, so we'll just use the ground power for now. EGT, this is the degrees Celsius in hundreds of the exhaust gas temperature of the APU. It's off at the moment, so you can see it's just slightly above 0, which equates to ambient air temperature. Go back up again in the middle. So personal preference, I like these lights to be on. I don't know why, I just think it makes things easier to read. And if you are traveling when it's at dusk, then having these already lit it just means that you don't have to worry about it later on. You can always see, even if as the light changes from day to night. So just leave them on. Don't care about circuit breakers. I don't even think circuit breakers are modelled in X-Plane, but maybe they are. It's getting extremely clever. Equipment cooling is on normal. We've turned on the emergency, or we've armed the emergency exit lights. I've just noticed that we now have London East. Will we be speaking to them? Maybe. Might speak to them at some point. So we don't turn on the fasten seatbelt sign until we've fueled. We've already put the fuel in, so we'll now turn that on. That'll go ding. Didn't go ding. Why didn't that go ding? Strange. We'll turn on the APU in a moment. This is the APU switch to turn that on. This is how you start the engines. I think most airlines prefer to have the logo light on when it's like dusky or dark. Leave it off for now. We will put the position lights to steady because that means that we get lights on the edges of the wings. Can't quite see them particularly well. I might need to do a little bit of... There you go, you can see you're right. The red light is on the left wing and the green light is on the right wing. So that's what those lights do. Get back to where we were. So that's our position steady lights. Anti-collision, also known as the beacon light, we turn that on just before we start the engines. So anything with a flashing red light on it is either moving and or has engines running. So it's important for other aircraft and ground teams to know that these things are on and running. Let's go back up here. So you may have seen me automatically turn on these lights. So I don't like to see a red light. It's because it's only 6 degrees outside. It's very cold, so we want to make sure that our probes are heated. So we have heated pitot tubes. This is what gives us our airspeed and also information about external pressure. Window heat, you heat the front windows and the sides apparently in this aircraft. You don't always heat the side windows in all aircraft, but the front ones, the forward facing ones, are important to heat because if it's really cold outside and you hit a bird or whatever, the coldness makes them brittle. If they're heated, it makes them pliable. So rather than smashing, they will actually absorb the heat, absorb any impact from birds and whatnot. So also because of the rapid heat changes or the cold soak that you get as you climb quickly, this just helps preserve the life of the glass. We don't need wing anti-ice. We don't need engine anti-ice. Not yet, anyway. The rule is below 10 degrees Celsius and visible moisture. So there is visible moisture. So we might want to turn on the engine and the wing anti-ice later, but we'll see if we're starting to fly through any visible moisture. Hydraulic pumps. So you've got electrical and engine-driven pumps. I generally just turn all these on by default. And obviously the engine-driven pumps aren't going to be working yet because the engines aren't on. This is the pressure information. So right now the differential pressure from outside to inside is 0 because the door's open. So yeah, so it's exactly the same. There's actually 2 pointers here, 2 dials. One for the outside and then one for the inside. The inside one gives you your cabin climb rate. So the same way that you've got a vertical speed indicator for the aircraft, which tells you how fast you're climbing, the pressure in the cabin will also drop as you climb, and you'll actually be able to see on here the rate at which the cabin is climbing, or the pressure within the cabin is climbing here. And you'll also see this differential pressure, pounds per square inch, will also increase. And we'll likely get around 8 psi difference between the inside and the outside. Yeah, so that's quite a lot of pressure. So £8 per square inch is significant. So when you hear about these people in the cruise who are trying to open the door of the plane because they're panicking or whatever, they can't open the door. They'd have to overcome about 2 tons worth of air pressure holding that door shut. Oh, sorry, that's the cabin climb. What's that one there? That's cabin climb. Why is that different? Is that just a backup? I don't know. So if I forget to set any of these settings, or if that's not an alt into auto, then what can happen is there will be no differential pressure, and actually the cabin will just climb with the outside air. So if we don't turn on the air conditioning, then basically the air inside the cabin will be the same pressure as outside. When you get to 10,000 feet, people tend to go to sleep forever. So you'll get an altitude horn going wah, 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 and you don't really want to end up in that situation because you're then going to descend and sort out your pressure. We're going to climb to 39,000 feet, so we've already told the automated system to manage the pressure in the cabin automatically. So by the time we get to 39,000 feet, we're just up against the bottom of the limits. Our landing altitude is 143 feet above sea level. 150 is about it is close enough. So basically, the aircraft has to depressurize itself before you can open those doors. As I mentioned before, so if you haven't depressurized the aircraft, the cabin crew can't open the doors after you've landed. So you have to tell this system the landing altitude as well. Whew. Okay then. I am just going to very, very quickly download the flight plan. So it's going to go to X-plane, output, FMS plans. I appreciate you can't see this. I'm going to overwrite the one that I did yesterday, and now if I look down here, I can enter the IRS position first of all. So the aircraft doesn't know where it is. It just knows, the IRS system just detects if you're rolling, climbing, yawing, etc. It changes in direction, but we need to tell it where it's starting off. So we first of all go to the next page. We pull off the most accurate location that we have, which is from the GPS system, and we tell the IRS system where it is, and then these come to life. So now the aircraft knows where it is. I don't know why, but I generally fill these in. I don't think it makes a lot of difference. So we're at Newcastle. We are currently at gate. Is this gate 25? I think something like that. But when we go to route, it will pre-populate the reference airport at the bottom of the scratch pad down here. And what that does is it saves us some typing. So our route is EGNT. We're going to LFQQ, and we are going to load flight plan 01. So CO route is company route. I'll plug that in, go to the next page. You can see we are going to climb straight out from the runway. We're then going to turn back to the runway to NATEB, M981 to Godos, direct to Amgod, L74 to Tulip, direct to Kua, direct to Civ, and then follow the Civ 5 Delta arrival to Aspar, and then we'll select our approach depending on the wind, and then we'll choose our runway. So if we hit activate, you can see it's starting to fill these in. If I hit exec, a lot of these lines will become solid. So we now have our solid line from NATEB to our to Godos on the M981 track. I'm just going to bring Xpilot back up because I can't see that. So it's saying Speedbird 74 Mike, EGNS. So that's got nothing to do with us at the moment. Fantastic. Click back on init-ref. Gross weight should be pre-populated for us. Our fuel is 11.5 tons. Zero fuel weight is 109.5 tons. That looks about right. What was our reserve fuel? Go back to Avitab, toggle tablet. Look back at the first page, I think it's on. FinRes plus alternate is 4.7 tons. So FinRes is final reserve and alternate. So we want to have 4.7 tons. Does it say we're using reserve? Nope, that's good. cost index was CI 40, stick 40 in. Cruise altitude today is going to be 390, flight level 390. Trans altitude is 6,000 at Newcastle. ISA deviation is going to be, can I just type that in? -4? No. Let's have a look. Sometimes you've got to do that. ISA deviation, M4, M4. No. Okay, just ignore that. So we'll just have to put up with the fact that the aircraft thinks it's an international standard atmosphere. So that's all done. Let's go to N1 limit. So this is, rather than just using full power every time you take off and climb, you can actually derate or reduce the power of the aircraft. Generally, I like to derate the climb, but because Newcastle's got a relatively short runway, we'll keep a full 26,000 pounds of thrust take off, and then it'll drop to a 22k derate at about 1,400 feet, so we'll drop down to 22,000 pounds of thrust. Our takeoff, we will do a 10-degree flap takeoff, which is about standard. CG of 23.4%, so center of gravity, which means our trim needs to be at 3.5, so we need to do that manually. So we push that forward, so that's 5. Well, that's as far forward as it's willing to go. So 4 is as close as it will get, so we'll be slightly nose up. And then we set our V speeds. So V1, so any time before 122 knots, we can abort the takeoff on the runway. When we get to 122 knots, we are committed to flying. So as soon as it gets to 122, we cannot stop safely on the runway and we have to fly. We will rotate at 123 anyway, so I will start pulling back on the control column at 123 knots. And V2 is our our best rate of climb on a single engine. So if we have a failure at V rotate, we need to maintain 135 knots for best rate of climb. Now, what I've seen a lot of pilots do, which makes sense to me, and I'd love some feedback on this from any real commercial pilots out there, is because you don't want to have to look down to find out what the speed is in the case of a single engine, an engine failure. What they do is they actually put the number into the speed here, and then they add 10 knots for margin for error, and that gives you 145 displayed on your speed tape here. So all you have to do is hold back the pitch of the elevators until you maintain 145 knots, and that will then give you your best rate of climb with a single engine. So you don't need to worry about what's happening down here on the flight management system. You just need to look at your speed tape, which is probably where your eyes are going to go anyway, because airspeed is life. So yeah, that for me that makes a lot of sense. Let's take off. Have we done everything? I generally just click on the init ref, and that leads me to the correct page, or the page that I haven't filled in yet. Cruise, so we're going to be climbing to 390. Optimal is 410, so we can climb straight up to 390 without any problems. Let's have a look. Climb, so we'll be climbing at 250 knots under flight level 100, 10,000 feet. And then we'll be climbing at 294 knots, or Mach decimal 786 for the rest of the climb. That all looks really good. Okay, let's start. Ooh, we've got Shuttle 13 Hotel over there. That's a British Airways shuttle. Let's see if I can do this. Can I shimmy to the left and shut this door? How do I shut the door? Need a flight attendant that shows how to do this. Never mind. You can do it from in here as well. So you can come over to here, to the doors, close the forward entry, and you can see it closing. I would like to get away before that sun sets, so we can get a little bit of the enjoyment of that sun from from the flight deck. Okay, I'm going to start the APU. What's going to happen here is we're going to get a low oil pressure warning here as the APU pulls some of the oil through. We'll then see the exhaust gas temperature increase. Takes a moment. And this is now pulling fuel from, I believe it pulls it from the left wing tank. So the exhaust gas temperature is going to go quite high as it starts, and then it's going to come back down and settle, and we'll see the APU gen available light appear up here. Once the APU is on, I will start the packs. Oh, actually, I could have started the packs already because we've got the external air start cart. So I turn these on, you see the duct pressure. Oh, duct pressure has not gone down. So I want to disconnect all the external systems now. So we'll switch across to the APU power and switch off the ground power, and then go over here. Turn off the ground power unit, and you can see that we've still got power, so we're on the APU now. And then the next thing we want to do is switch across to the APU for air. So we'll switch that over. That's open. Let's look at duct pressure. And if I now remove the air start cart, we should see a reduction in duct pressure because there's not two sources of air, not the APU and the air start unit. But we still are now, the APU is now providing all of our air pressure. Okay, good APU start. Next thing we need to do is push back. Now then, I have found, I don't have better pushback installed. I need to get that installed, but I don't have it installed yet. So what I generally do is, I think there's some combination of buttons or something that I can press here. No control on this frequency. The other alternative, which I normally do, to be fair, is I do what's called a power back, which you're not legally allowed to do anymore. Inside is just stunning. Which means that what we'll do is we'll start the engines on the stand and we'll open the reverse thrust, and that will then pull the aircraft backwards. So we will do that. We're on 122.8. Just going to quickly pop the settings just to make sure my audio is still correct. All on AirPods Pro. These are really good, by the way. If you're looking for a decent noise cancelling set of earbuds, the AirPods are phenomenal. Best bass I've heard of any headphones, and I've got some nice noise cancelling Sony's, the WX3s, or the MX3s, MX3s, whatever they're called. And I thought the bass on those were good, but this is just fantastic. So we're going to start the engine on stand, which means that we need our beacon light on. We need to use some of the air that's going into the cabin to start the engines, so we'll turn off the packs. And here it's quieting down, and then we turn the engine start to ground. Down here, a few things that we're looking for. You can see the N2, which is the inner turbine, the inner fan of the engine is starting to turn. N1 is the big disc fan that you see at the front. When N2 gets to 25, we turn on the fuel. You see the fuel flow here is starting to increase, which means that we'll start to see an increase in exhaust gas temperature, so 200 and 300 and whatever degrees Celsius. And the fan at the front of the, sorry, that was me just moving. I'd left the throttle fully forward, so that will then settle around about 20%. And then we'll do the same for the other one, other engine. Ground start, stay in process again. Wait for 24% N2. Get ready with the fuel. You can actually put that on any time. It just it doesn't get, the fuel won't actually start until it's ready. So N2, we've got EGT rising. Keep an eye on EGT. If it starts to go beyond the red line, it's known as a hot start. We need to shut down the fuel and start the startup process again. That temperature is slowing down, which is a good sign. N1 is climbing to 20%, and that looks like two good starts. Fab. Okay. TCAS, Traffic Collision Avoidance System, is controlled by your transponder. Currently in standby, which is fine for now. We'll set it to TARA, which is Traffic Avoidance Resolution Advisory, once we get airborne. Okay, so we have nothing, no more warnings on there. If I come over here, is it this button? Nothing recall. So we've got a nice clean aircraft. The one thing we don't have is a correct pressure setting. So this is showing us as being at 720 feet. And I know that Newcastle is about 240 to 260 feet above sea level. So if I go into XPilot, type WX, which is short and for weather, type in the name of a weather station, which is an airport or a military weather station. It will then return us the correct weather information. So the wind it was at 290 at 10 knots, now it's 270 at 4, so it's more favourable. We will go up here and we will turn down the pressure setting to 996, and you can see that this has already pre-populated what the database knows to be the ground level at Newcastle, so they now line up more or less. That's close enough. So that's looking a lot better. Okay, I am just gonna quickly check something. Okay, all's looking good. I just wanted to quickly check my recording was working, and it's all looks good from here. Okay, so the aircraft is ready to go. We'll just let that speed bird over there know that we're about to do a power back. I'll bring up my version of XPilot here so I can see what's going on. And quick radio call. Okay, let's see if this works. Newcastle traffic, Golf Romeo India Charlie Hotel, stand 25, pushing back, Newcastle. Okay, so still don't see any pushback here, so what I'm going to do is, this is going to potentially get a bit noisy, so let's turn down the aircraft volume, and if I need to take off the chocks, remove chocks, otherwise we can't do anything. So if you push down both the brake, foot brakes, the toe brakes, then it should release the parking brake. Now this can get pretty wild. You're really, really not supposed to do this. I like to use the engines to stop us rather than the brakes because you can tip backwards. Okay, so we have pushed back. Oh, that was a terrifying moment. Right, so I'm going to pop the parking brake back on for a moment while we do a few things. First thing is, why is that? Anti-skid inop. Interesting. So we have no anti-skid. We'll have to be careful of that when we come to land. In Lille, I don't like the sound of that. Do I search Is it just a failure, or is it just because I'm an idiot and I've just powered back? See if that works. Anti-skid. Oh, why is that put fuel in? Ask you to put fuel in? Ugh. Let's go back to fuel weight and balance, payload, fuel. I don't know why it's increased that. I don't know what that buzz is either. It's very, very, very frustrating. That's off. Is that something outside? Oh, what's happening to them over there? This is... What's buzzing? Why is that buzzing? Something is now buzzing in here, that's annoying. Doesn't seem to be engine related. Maybe moving forward even though the parking brakes are on. I'm just going to reload this aircraft because I'm not happy with that. And it all seems to have crashed, does it? Nope. Oh, okay. It's crashed and it's broken everything. Give me a second and I'll come right back. Curious. Okay, I can hear quite a loud engine noise and it's not mine, as far as I know. Ah, it'll be the Northwest Airlines A320 as a shuttle. There it is. We are connected, we are on 122.8. We have no Newcastle online. Oh, okay. Should we start taxiing then? We're good to go. Let's make a radio call. Newcastle traffic, Golf Romeo India Charlie Hotel, taxiing to holding point Delta 1 via Delta Newcastle. So take the brakes off. Don't really want to be using more than 30% N1 down here, 35 at a maximum. They have updated the ground handling model. Oh, hang on, I still got my chocks in. Ground services, remove chocks. Pull the power back a little bit. Usually 30% is more than enough to get you rolling, particularly around the terminal area. You don't want to be flying around near ground crews and baggage handlers and things like that. So yeah, just take your time. Be good at becoming patient. That little delay, I think, has probably cost us a better view of the sunset than we're gonna get this time round. But that's life. We'll just suck it up. We will get to see that that British Airways take off though. Don't really want to be flying around, no pun intended, on the ground. Take our time. Just make sure everything is set up as we want it to be. Nice little ground radar there, spinning around. I haven't heard that aircraft talk to us at all. Should be talking to us. Comes the rules. going a little bit fast there, 22 knots. Not too fast, but I don't want to get too much faster than that on the ground. While we're here, we can check our flight controls. So we will do that while trying to stay on that yellow taxi line up here. So down here you can see the arrows moving as I move the controls, the elevator. What we're looking for here is just to make sure that there's nothing, no flight controls are stuck. It's a very early takeoff. I guess it is only flying to London. So just making sure that all the flight controls aren't stuck, or the rigging in them isn't held up anywhere. Nice little reflection from the sun coming across the instruments there. One thing I've forgotten to do, which is dangerous, is I've forgotten to put my flaps down. So we currently have a clean wing, and you can see the flap indicator over here. So we'll set it to 1 degree, 2 degrees, 5 degrees, 10 degrees. There we go. So there's the tower. It doesn't look exactly like that, but not a million miles away. Emirates, the airline, basically paid for a brand new funky control tower at Newcastle when they started a daily service to Dubai. The rumour is that Newcastle wouldn't have survived without Emirates coming to Newcastle, so it's often jokingly referred to as the saviour whenever the Boeing 777-300ER comes in every day. I did mention that Newcastle has a shortish runway. It's not the longest in the world, but it has got, it has seen some very large aircraft here. 777-300ER is a biggie. We had British Airways send up a 747-400 to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the airfield back in I don't know, earlier in the 2000s. 2005, maybe 2008, around about then. Yeah, you can't have large aircraft landing here. There has been occasions, I think it was last year or the year before, there was an aircraft coming in from Seattle to Heathrow, British Airways, 777-300, maybe a 200 actually, and London Heathrow was fogged in, so it landed here and spent the night here. I'm guessing the passengers were put up in hotels. Okay, so as we're starting to approach the runway here, I'm just going to apply a little bit of brakes. There's a little holding point there off to the left, so if you're not quite ready you can go and stay over there, and then planes can still pass you and get to the runway. What we'll do here is we'll just slow down a touch. Go down a bit too much. Newcastle traffic Golf Romeo India Charlie Hotel, ready for departure, lining up runway 25, Newcastle. We haven't said that we're taking off yet, we're ready for departure. We will be occupying the runway. So we will push this bar down, which knocks all of our lights on there. Put all these lights on. We'll switch our strobes on. Put these lights on. I like that. That's something in the Zibo. When you turn the wing lights for takeoff, it tells the flight attendants to sit down, and you get that nice little intercom call. So I think we've missed the best part of the sunset. I think this will still be pretty nice to fly in. Okay, so let's just pause there. I always get nervous at this point, as if I've completely forgotten how to fly, but we'll see. I might have done. Set the rejected takeoff auto brakes and throttle up to about 50%. Make sure that the engines are both rising at a similar rate, and then turn on the auto throttle, hit N1, make sure our flight director's on, which it wasn't before. That's very silly of me. And then we'll see the throttle increase. Keep her on the centre line. Try and keep our eyes outside. Listen out for the calls from the co-pilot. 80 knots. Go pretty fast. Rotate, pull back. Keep those wings level. Positive rate. Wind out any rudder. Don't really want to go much above 20, but we'll just try and maintain that speed. We are a bit nose up. And we're just going to stay on this heading for a little bit, so we'll just set a heading select on there, and that will then give us that pink vertical bar. Left the gear up. Oh no, that's the wrong button. Don't do that, Rich. Don't want to raise the flaps just yet, but we do want to raise the landing gear. That reduces quite a lot of the drag on the airframe. So we're just going to fly like this for a little bit. Look at that. Isn't that stunning? A couple of screenshots for the fellow nerds on Reddit/r/xplane. Oh, what we're going to do now is we're going to make a right-hand turn towards legs, push NATEB up to there, hit execute, and switch that to LNAV. This should then give us a nice right-hand turn. That is very pretty. I'm also running auto-ortho. That gives us some very nice satellite imagery. But can I at this point engage VNav and change the altitude? So you normally clear to 6,000 feet. Let's just change it right the way up to our cruise altitude. 39,000. And then we'll engage the autopilot. Hands and feet off the controls. Monitor that. No, so it wants to be in standard already. We're descending there. I don't like it when it does this. Come on. Take us up to 39,000 feet plane. This is why I prefer to hand fly it. So all of our flaps are up. We're now heading back out towards the North Sea. And we should. There's the runway just there. Can you see it? Where we've just taken off from. Taking us right over the top of the airfield again. I'm hoping that's going to start rolling out shortly. Yes, it is. So the autopilot is not to be relied upon without a little bit of skepticism. The other thing I haven't done is turned on the transponder. You have to keep an eye on what the autopilot is doing and try and keep ahead of it. That's now recognized that we're flying over NATEB and it's flying us towards what was the Roxat? Looks like it's the next one. Still climbing, so we're about to climb through 10,000 feet. There's a few things that we do at 10,000 feet. First things we do is, in fact, we'll turn off the seat belts. Just realised I didn't do a radio call to say that I was taking off. Turn off the logo lights, turn off the wing lights. Seatbelt is off so people can roam around the cabin. We've got, turn off the air conditioning from the APU, and I can now switch the power. This will disengage the autopilot. When you switch power source, the autopilot disengages. That's something that we need to watch out for. So if I now switch the power across from the APU, just re-engage the autopilot to get rid of that horrible alarm. And now we can...
Ladies and gentlemen, the seatbelt sign will be switched off shortly.
It's already off, woman.
Safety recommended to keep your seatbelt loosely fastened in case of any unexpected turbulence. We have an exit
So we are airborne. I'm just going to turn on the aircraft noise a little bit and jump outside. Well, that is lovely. And you can see Newcastle and all the roads pretty clearly there. Look on this side of the aircraft. I would have thought that would have been a bit more yellow, given that yellow sunset, but it is what it is. So that's our bit of turbulence there by looks of things. Our private 737 bobbing along. And back inside where it's a bit quieter. And now we just potter along. So we're already climbing through 15,000 feet. Engines are already at 95% power because we've got that derated climb. More than enough power for what we need. It's starting to get dark in here, so let's just put some of that main panel. That's a floodlight there. Light for that. And then down here, I have to navigate a little around here. Turn on this panel there. So here we go. We are airborne. Good thing about X-Plane, they've sorted out. So this looks like it's a dark cockpit, but that's because the middle of the screen is outside. So it tries to work out. See, it basically uses the camera like an iris of an eye. As you come back in here, that gets brighter because it's now got darker things within view. So it averages out what's in view, just like the iris of an eye. So when you're inside, the outside looks really bright. And if I look there, it looks dark. And if I look down here, it starts to brighten up a bit because of the iris action of the eye. It's very clever. So this says we're using reserve fuel. That worries me a little bit because I thought the flight planning was quite good. The fuel planning was quite good. So let's just check. If we go to progress, this is saying that we will be at LFQQ with 4.7 tons of fuel, 5 tons of fuel, 5.1 tons of fuel. Okay, so the aircraft is now making fuel, which is also worrying. I'm just kidding. So yeah, it looks like it's still trying to figure out exactly what time and how much fuel we use across the journey. So I think that's going to balance out. Weather's supposed to be really nice in Lille. I don't think it's going to be a problem. But I don't see any reason why we need to divert today. So I'm happy as long as this is really above 4. We should know if the weather deteriorates in Lille in the next 45 minutes. Ooh, why is that going funny? Might just be the AirPods, but I think the audio went a bit crazy there. 22,000 feet. How long is this leg? I think this is quite a long leg, so it's about 160 miles to Rockstad. And then it's about 80 miles to Kua. So you can see the top of descent is just there. We're only in the cruise for about 30 minutes. So let's just do a little bit of logbook work. So toggle tablet. We go to the first page of our flight log. We should see that was top of climb. So when we get the top of climb, we should have fuel on board. Can you hear that? Is that like a... I don't know if that's an audio problem with X-Plane or what, but it sounded a bit strange there. Might just be passengers in the back. So when we get the top of climb, we will have fuel on board of 7.9 tons, and we should have an estimated burn of 3.5 tons. There's a way, we did it last time, I'm sure. Fuel flow. What I'm looking for here is a total fuel burnt screen. There's probably something in here I can look at. There we go. Fuel quantity is 92, so that's just going to be the sum of those two. You can see the left fuel tank has got lower fuel than the right, and that's because the APU was burning fuel from that left wing tank. We've got 9.1 tons of fuel. And NATEB we had 10.4, which I think is about right. NATEB 10.6, so we're slightly over our fuel burn. Worst case scenario, I'm just going to divert to Amsterdam if it looks like we're going to run out of fuel, but I still think this is looking pretty decent. I was showing you before a fix on here, which I didn't actually get around to showing you properly. What I will do is, rather than doing a NATEB fix, I will show you an EHAM fix. So this is Amsterdam. See, Amsterdam is just there. So that's why I think it would be good if we do need to divert en route. I'll either turn back to Newcastle, or if we're near Amsterdam, I'll divert to Amsterdam, and we can just refuel there if we need to. You can see we are 225 miles away from Amsterdam. If I go to the next page, I can put EGNT into there, and you can see we're 57 miles away from Newcastle, which is behind us. I can also put radial rings around these two. So what's that? 22. So if we put a ring of 150 nautical miles around each of them, that's from Newcastle, and 150 nautical miles from Amsterdam, they will overlap. There we go, that works out. So we now have effectively an equidistant point. So before we get to that overlap, if there's a problem, I'm going to divert back to Newcastle. If we reach that overlap, I will continue on and I will fly to Amsterdam and divert to Amsterdam. "30,000 feet. Weather is extremely nice." Out here over the North Sea, not a lot really going on. That audio funny for you, or is it just me and these earbuds? I do not know. Okay, I think like any good captain, now is a good time as we're approaching the top of climb to pour ourselves a drink. I'll be right back. Well, that was a rather nice surprise. My daughter just came to my office door and dropped off a McDonald's coffee of some description. Is it a latte? Smells of caffeine, which is exactly what I need right now. Oh, it's a hard life being a captain on a Boeing business jet. So we've got some traffic up ahead at our level. Yeah, about our level more or less. So 33,000 people climbing above them now. Ooh, we've got some traffic off to the left as well. We reduce those range rings down. Don't think we're going to see that one off to our left. I'll do a bit of zooming. No. Oh, there's one. City contrail. I feel a bit seasick when I do that. So yeah, that's somebody else flying online on VATSIM. Highly recommend VATSIM if you're into your flight simming. Adds a good level of realism to things. You get other traffic, which is also nice. Let's see if this is just a latte or if it's a toffee latte. It's a latte. Very nice. I've probably had enough sugar over the Christmas. I hope you've had a good Christmas, by the way, or whatever you celebrate. I hope you've had a good holiday. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world at the moment. Gotta try and enjoy these family times when you can. So just turn off the RTO. I'll tell you what we can do. We'll have a look at the checklists. So I generally don't use these because they're quite involved, and I'm very lazy. Climb and cruise, landing lights. The good thing about this as well is that's flashing over there, and if I look over here, it tells you exactly where to look. So these lights are all off. A bit of jerkiness on this. This isn't fun. Landing lights are off. Passenger signs are off. Altimeter set the standard, did that after takeoff. Altimeter cross-checked. So we have standard over here. There's a nice little arrow. And I've set it to synchronize across both of them, so that is cross-checked and verified. Modify route for arrival, so that's just before top of descent. So we should, thanks arrow, quite annoying that. So the arrival, is it already in here? Civ 5 Delta is active. I'll tell you what we can do as well while we're here. Go to xpilot.wx LFQQ. I don't know why QQ is Lille, but it is. No such weather profile. WX LFPG. Let's try and see what's at Charles de Gaulle. Oh, come on. Am I doing something really stupid here? LFPG. Ooh, that's not good. WX EHAM. Okay, so it looks like they're having some issues at the moment. I don't know which runway to land on. I'll do that in a moment. I'm cruise, so we're not at top of descent yet, and we don't know which runway we're landing on. That was the toilet flushing. Oh, it's so funny. I am going to put the dome light on, because it's going to get dark very soon. So we're already approaching that equidistant point. 20 miles over here somewhere is another aircraft doing aircrafty things. That's good. But yeah, that's the the door's open. That's why we can hear them. Hello. You can't actually walk out, you know. Hi everyone. Yes, I do fly the plane, but I'm not. This is not a very fancy Boeing business jet. You can, excuse me, madam. Have a look out the window. That's quite nice. That is very nice. Somebody's using the toilet a lot. Nice little beacon reflected in there. In the engine. Oh, there's a plane. There's a plane. How do I reverse out of here? Oh, I've just gone through your seat. Hello. You look like you're enjoying whatever's on there. Let's have a look. Let's go back to the back of the aircraft. A lot of very happy passengers. Did you enjoy the takeoff? Yeah, it was fantastic, wasn't it? Yeah, I thought so too. I'll look back here. Not a good idea to try and open the door and open the toilet. No. Okay, but yeah, there we go. We are in the galley. Steal a couple of bottles of beer. One for me, one for the co-pilot. This is as fast as I can walk. Do 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 do. So the conversation that's going on at the moment is about which runway to land. Oh look, it's Austin Meyer, the famous Austin Meyer who invented X-plane. A lot of flushing going on. I think they had the fish straight back in the cockpit. Shut the door. Click. We should see down here that the flight door lock is now on auto. Jump back into my seat. There we go. That plane that flew past us before, was that on here? Don't see it. Strange. Have we passed top of climb as well? We're at 39,000 feet, so we must have done. Just do a quick fuel check. Let's see. Progress 7.7. Rocksat is 35 miles. Distance to go 35 miles. We should have 7.1. Let's just bring up the tablet. So at Rocksat, we should have 7.3. We're going to have 7.1, so slightly lower than we expected. Not the end of the world. That's why we have reserve fuel. Yep, this is looking to be a very nice flight. So what I'm expecting in a moment is we'll get a call from Amsterdam West Centre on 12575, so we'll just set that up. 12575. That will show up as an extra tab on here. It'll just say bing bong, give me a call. Because there's no one around, let me just turn that down and we'll switch across to that frequency. Why is my mouse not working?
Descend to 2,000 feet, QNH 1004.
Well.
180, 2000. Feet, post 446.
That was quite loud.
404, please start your descent.
Okay.
401, please start your descent. 141, sorry. November Tango Golf, frequency change approved, 500. Over to Unicom and Westwest,
It might be a little bit. Might be a little bit outside of their airspace at the moment. Still no weather.
Clear ILS.
One good thing that you can do is go to flight radar and just go to the airport and see which way the aircraft are landing and taking off.
Sierra 5 at Camille to Ryanair to Newcastle. B97 Echo Kilo Tower van 9230. Alright,
Being disconnected. For some reason, X-Plane doesn't like it if you've got Sorry, I'm doing two things at once. Lille is using runway 26. If you're using a Google Maps system in another window, then X-Plane will start to reduce its Happy New Year. It starts to reduce the frame rate quite considerably. That latte is delicious. You see a yellow label appear.
Speaker 24, turn right heading 300 to intercept the localizer. Reduce speed 180 until 6 miles final. Speaker 24 heading 300 to intercept the localizer. 300 to intercept Speaker 24. Goedendag, Happy New Year, EGNT 758. First Jersey 1535, climb to flight levels, present descent flight level 70. 170, Jersey 1535. Digit 758, insgelijks, climb flight level 250.
So this happens a lot. Yes, frame rate.
Good evening, Lufthansa 432 heavy inbound heavy flight level 340. Lufthansa 432 Amsterdam, at low beta contact. Proceed direct to Kodos.
Oh, Kodos, that's where we're heading towards.
Back to Kodos, Lufthansa 432.
Try and make contact.
655, ready for pushing start in Eindhoven, stand 16. Ryder 7655, pushback and start approved. Push approved, Ryder 75. Postman 1446 Tower, 19230.
Local Amsterdam radar, was it?
Speaker 24, reduce to final approach speed.
Oh, look at that sky.
Easy 86, let's go, Quebec, let's go, this frequency, yeah.
So the way I try and get the frame rate back up is by not putting too much outside.
In 60 miles, but I'll be closing in 5 minutes, so you can start. Alright, thank you very much, bye-bye. Skipper 24, you have overshot the localizer, turn left heading 2302.
I'll just stay on Unicom if he's switching off. Yeah, the cloud's still on perfect and X-Plane. It looks a bit like an oil painting at times. The jaggedy edges are better with the post-processed anti-aliasing, but still not perfect, but doable. This is nice. Still, this is nice. Okay, so I just had a look, and the aircraft at Lille are currently taking off and landing on runway 26. So if we go into the arrivals page, we will do, what are our options? RNAV, we'll try and do an RNAV 26 if it supports it. It doesn't. Okay, so it's going to be an ILS. So RNAV It's basically a GPS guided approach, very high level of navigational performance. You see here you've got your required navigational performance and actual navigational performance. These are basically the nautical miles off track that you may be based on differences between various sources of navigational or positional information. So RNAV requires very high levels of navigational performance, which we do have, so we can do an RNAV approach, but only if one exists. It doesn't for this one, so we'll use an instrument landing system. Z, the Zulu, is generally the Z is the most common one, so we'll use that one. And as a transition point, we will use ASBAR. And it should have selected Civ 5D. If we just hit execute on there, that should now join all the dots. So rather than having this in map mode, we can change it to plan mode, zoom in a bit, and we can then step through our steps to the between now and the runway. So if we click on step at the bottom right, so we'll go to Monil, then Tulip, down to Kua, Civ, zoom in a bit more as we get closer to the airport. At Civ, we'll make a descending right turn to Robal, Quebec 902, which I showed you before on the chart. Then we'll make a right hand turn. So there's Asbar. We won't quite get over Asbar because of that sharpness of the turn, but we'll be at 3,000 feet or above at Asbar. And then we'll head north to Oslid, and then we'll intercept the what we call the extended center line of the runway. So that dotted line is basically the direction that the runway is in, but it's obviously we're not over the runway there. That's like the glide path or the localizer path towards the runway. So we'll join the approach at Olbus. We've got our initial fix there, the final approach fix there, and then we should be in a good place to head towards the runway. What we do need is we need the ILS frequency. Can I add a new window? Sure I can. Still learning. I use a system called OBS, Open Broadcast System. Window capture. That's not going to work. Oh, I think I've broken everything now. I am just going to have to do it on the other screen for now. Runway 296, 26, RNAV. Ooh, why does that say that? There is a RNAV approach runway 26. Instrument approach chart. RNAV, ILS 6. Okay, yeah, so the arrival is RNAV, and then it goes into an instrument approach. I save this in the X-plane folder. Resources. Do I have charts? I will do in a moment. Chart. Save it into there. Does it have an... Apologies, I appreciate I'm doing this on a screen that you can't even see. Just put that back into map mode, just so we get our situational awareness back. Amsterdam is off to our left, somewhere there. You can see the coast of the Netherlands just there. So I think it's actually the Amsterdam airport is so detailed, it just kills the frame rate. So we're going to go inside here for a moment, try and get the frame rate back, otherwise I will be disconnected. Come on, come on, come on. Oh, dag nabbit. Reconnect. Go back into Avi tab, toggle tablet, files, output, no, I want to go to open directory, resources, charts, yeah, okay. So if we just zoom in. So this is the approach. We are going to ASPAR. We may be asked to hold at ASPAR. If we do, it will be a hold with an inbound course of 011 degrees. It looks like that's going to be 3,000 feet or above. Max height 220 knots. 113 degrees left and turns, and then when we leave, we'll go on a heading rather than 013 to 011. Somewhere between 5,000 feet and flight level 100. 1 minute legs. I'm not quite sure what that means. 2,000. Might be safe altitude. So we're going to come up here. We're going to turn left at Albus on a heading of 256. Vectors to the final for ILS Z Zulu runway 26. Lille channel LEQ, is that the localizer? I'm looking for the words ILS. Oh no. Where is it that? 109. I'm happy to fly in visually, to be honest. But just in case, 109. Oh, my memory, my short-term memory is just abysmal. Was it just 109? So 109. I'll get that set up on the nav. It's not in range yet. Top of descent is showing up on there. We'll just do a quick fuel check. But no, we won't. I know we're good for fuel. Yeah, let's do it. Top of descent, 6.7 remaining, and we have 6.5 and some change. So we're still running 0.2 tons ahead of plan, but that's not the end of the world. Is something. Let's just jump outside, just turn the volume down. Look at that. Yeah, those clouds are freaky, but apart from that. Lovely. Okay, so top of descent. So we know we want to get down to no. Where do you want to be for? I guess we just start dialing it down to 3,000. And the aircraft will, because it's in VNAV, vertical navigation, it will automatically select the right point to descend. It should be not far away, because we're approaching that top of descent point here. So 5 miles, 4 miles, and what you'll see is the engines are already starting to wind down a touch. Oh, back up again. But when we hit that top of descent point, the engines, the throttles over here will start to retard, they'll pull back, and we'll start to see our altitude come down. Gonna have a victorious slurp of my latte. So there you go, you can see the flight plan coming down, engines are rolling back, and the plane will try to keep that diamond in line with that white line there. Our descent has started. Okay, victorious slurp of latte, and I'll be back in a moment. Good coffee. Let's have a look at these checklists then. So descent checklist, landing altitude we set it at 150 to 143 feet. System annunciator, nothing there. Approach ref vref page, yes, this is very important. So we hit init ref, and it says what speed would you like to approach the runway? Generally you want to approach at the slowest speed possible because that gives you that basically means that the touchdown is going to be slower, so you're going to slow down faster. Glide slope is on. So there we go. ILS 26 Zulu, course 257, so the course needs to be 257. I knew it showed it somewhere in here, I just couldn't remember where. And the ILS frequency is 11075. 11075. I'm gonna put 1090 on the secondary. That also looks like it's a VOR, VHF omnidirectional range beacon on the runway. So it'd be good just to have a secondary radio beacon tuned in. So we're descending fairly rapidly, to be honest. 3,000 feet per minute is fairly quick. So, did we choose an approach speed? Yes, I did. Approach speed. Gross weight. Yeah, that all looks good. So approach speed is going to be, so flap 40, 125 knots. And you can add 5 knots for wind correction. So I do like to add a little bit of margin, even when I'm flying the Cessna, to be honest. VRF is done. Radio barrow minimums is up here, so we can choose a radio altimeter. Minimums, we want that to be at 200 feet above the ground. And if we can't see the ground at 200 feet, which we will, because it's not overcast or foggy yet, then so that'll shout minimums when it gets to 200 feet above the ground. And we will choose whether to land or to divert. Navigation radio, we've set the ILS. Auto brake as needed. We'll set that to quite a long runway, but I'm terrible at landing, so we'll just put that on a 2 because I'll probably miss the touchdown area. Auto brake done. Descent checklist complete. Approach checklist. Ground proximity flap if flap 15 landing is needed. It's not. At or above 10,000 feet, fixed landing light. We'll put all the lights on, passenger signs, and then transition level. Ooh, we're in a little bit of rain by the looks of things. Bit of precip. How is the aircraft doing? It's not doing a particularly good job of keeping track of that for some reason, because we're a bit fast. So we're going to help the aircraft descend by pulling back on the speed brake. That will help us descend while maintaining a higher descent rate. So you can see this is now going to come back up to meet us. Flying is just one giant energy management exercise. That's all we do. So you can see we're actually going to cross over the extended centre line of the runway we'll be landing on shortly. This is one of the beauties of having some. Don't want to descend too fast. This is one of the beauties of having the course set and having that beacon set on your navigational radio. Actual navigation performance is looking good. That's coming back up, so I'm going to slowly stow the speed brake and the trim wheel will spin. Maybe not. So we don't have a vertical speed mode enabled. Why do we not? We've got LNAV. Oh, we've got VNAV path. LNAV. give you a little bit more of the aircraft noise rather than just me wittering on. These clouds have gone backwards, to be honest, in quality. The rain. There's the sunset over there. Don't know if you heard that. That was that little clunk was Costa sending me a notification saying you should come and get coffee. I like coffee. Complete whiteout. Can't see outside. Got to rely on our instruments. Got to trust your instruments. Gonna pull the range rings down a bit just so we get a bit more. As the flight plan becomes a bit more complex, it's important that we keep track of our position. Aircraft's more or less on the vertical path, so 100 feet out, that's nothing at this sort of speed. I was going to say, that's France below us, but actually it might be Belgium. More likely to be Belgium. Satellite imagery being pulled in from auto-ortho. I really need to do a video on setting up auto-ortho. What are those lights over there? Maybe a stadium or something. A lot of people are complaining that you do get rain when it probably shouldn't be raining. I think that's just a quirk of this weather engine. But honestly, it's not the end of the world. That's bang on vertical navigational performance. 257 on the course there. Ah, yeah, so hang on. 257 on the course there. That is actually going to be the extended center line of the runway, because that beacon, that VOR, is on the VOR2 over here. You can see VOR2. Turn off VOR2, we lose that line. What I actually do? Yeah, leave it on. No, turn it off. It's there if we need it. Do. Nope, rain suddenly stopped. Looks like some kind of a quarry or something down there, doesn't it? Interesting. I think you can use auto for visual flying. There's an aircraft heading towards us. On the right, standing with us. It's on a collision course with us. Lille traffic, Golf Romeo India Charlie Hotel, 5 nautical miles north of Charlie India Victor, descending through flight level 115 on the Charlie India Victor 5 Delta arrival for Lille runway 26. Lille. Just want to make sure that they are aware that we are here. Whereabouts are they? Is that them there? Oh no, there they are. Oh, there's a worry when you can see a plane that close. Just checking my audio settings. do get a bit nervous. So there's 10,000 feet. We've got the fasten seatbelt signs on. We'll put our landing lights on. Logo on. Put our wing lights on. Should be pretty well lit up now. Still on the RNAV. Blowing at 240 feet. 240 feet? 240 knots. Runway somewhere over in that direction. Auto brake, we've got no flaps down yet. Course is set. Heading, runway heading is 257. Get that in again as just a visual reference for us. Some lights there, thought that might be the runway. Jump outside, turn that volume down a touch, and gosh, that looks good. Where's that plane gone that we saw? Few screenshots. Try and get one with the beacon flashing. It's always a good. Oh, I think I did it there. That's always good for the video. The thumbnail rather on YouTube. So vertical performance is looking good, speed is good, altitude is looking good as well. So at 10 miles or so we should be we'll be above 3,000. So we'll go through a deceleration phase here. The nose will raise and our descent rate will decrease. As then we will descend slower. So our current descent rate is just over 1,000 feet per minute. If we keep going at this rate, we'll be on the ground in 7 minutes. In reality, we have progress. Our current time is 16:15, and we should be landing at 16:24. We've got 9 minutes to landing, so yeah, our descent rate will slow down a little bit as we get closer to the runway. So everything is looking pretty good. I think it's another smug latte slurp time. One moment. I'm only smug now because it's the autopilot flying. I won't be smug when I've got to do the landing. So FMC speed, so speed mode is 240. So we should start to see the engines modulate, as in increase and decrease, to hold 240 as we continue our descent. We're about to make a right-hand turn, so as soon as we get to here we should see a right-hand turn. I have not got LFQQ. Is that still not working? Oh, we've got a METAR 1008. So we can now switch off standard 1008 hectopascals. FQQ 01 1600 Zulu, variable at 2 knots, so the wind is fine. Light rain, broken clouds at 1600 feet. Ah, do you know what we need to put on? Wing anti-ice, engine anti-ice, because it is cold. Is it cold enough here? Might not be, you know. 7 degrees, yeah, it's below 10 degrees, visible moisture, and we're flying through it, so let's just make sure all the anti-icing is on. Bit unstable. The autopilot is dealing with it just fine. Making sure this bank isn't gonna increase too much. So it's gonna bring us to 220, which is so we've got quite a margin there between our current speed and our minimum clean speed. So that's the speed at which we can still fly without flaps. So that looks to be about 198, 195 knots-ish. So we'll decelerate in a moment. And as I put the flaps out, our speed will decrease. So the speed now is controlled by when I choose to put the flaps out. 1,000 feet down to 3,000. Tag, toggle tablet. Let's just double check this. What altitude do we need to be at? So we need to be at 2,000 feet for Olbus, so we can now descend to 2,000. Let's continue the descent, and you can see that our that green arc there, that's telling us when we're going to get to our desired altitude. So we're effectively on the base leg. The airport should be over there somewhere. I'm going to drop one notch of flaps, and you should then see the speed that the aircraft will hold. All I'm doing, the only thing I'm doing is dropping one notch of flaps. Watch the speed over here. There we go. It's automatically selected a slower speed. It's not daft. It might be a 70-year-old design, but these are clever aircraft. Weather engine is doing a grand job. Look at that. Love it. Lille traffic, Golf Romeo India Charlie Hotel, turning final runway 26, Lille. Let's check there's nothing joining straight in. So we are about to turn, need some more flaps. Flap 2. Should be starting to slow right down. Flaps 5. Indicated. So when I do a flap 15,
2,500.
it's fine. Once we turn here, I'm going to switch across to approach mode. And that should arm the approach mode, so you can see we've got the localizer. So the localizer is now going to guide us towards the runway, which we can see at the top left here. And then the glide slope, which is that little white diamond at the top there. Oh, we might be a bit high. No, we're not. No, we're not. So that is going to start coming down to meet us. We are just in the right position here. Excuse me. 10 degrees of flaps.
1,000 to go.
Come on, aircraft. So why is that only white? I wonder. That's not going to complain that I haven't got my gear down, so I'll stay at 10 degrees of flaps for now. That's gone pink diamond. So we should now start descending. Let's check what our missed approach. Do we have that in here? No, I'm not gonna mess around with that now. I'm gonna set the missed approach speed. I am also now going to lower gear, so that's one less thing to worry about. Oh, slowing right down. All my lights are on, and then I'm going to take over and do the landing. Or take over and mess up the landing. So, full flaps. That will slow us down very fast. I'm going to attempt to take over this landing now. Turn off the auto throttle. This is going to go horrendously wrong. I am warning you now. So we're already miles off the glide path. Create a little bit of that altitude for speed. Back on the glide path. Get back on the centre line. Too low.
400.
Glide slope.
Approaching minimums.
Land. Get back on that centre line. Land.
100. 50, 40, 30, 20, 10.
Oh, that was not bad at all. So we were going to come up with Tango 4.
80 knots.
Quite happy with that. With that landing. Come up with Tango 4. Bring those flaps up. There's Tango 4. There's Tango 4. This is going a little bit too well, to be honest. That was pure fluke. So we said we were going to go for Tango 4, hang a left on, I think it was Papa 3. We need to turn off our landing lights, otherwise the people on the ground get very annoyed at us. And we're going to put our beacons back to steady, and we need some taxi lights. We don't need our runway turn off lights. So nothing that way, nothing this way. I have to say the default airports on X-Plane are also better than Microsoft Flight Simulator, but the scenery and the graphics of Microsoft Flight Simulator are still probably the best of the two. So if I just press power back a little bit, press M, zoom in, where are we? We are here, so we want to take the next left. So that was the auto throttle alarm, that's fine, that was deliberate. Oh, what a brake. Disarmed itself when I touched the brakes for the first time. Pull into here. I wonder who our very, very rich passengers are today. You generally need a bit of power to go around the corners in these types of planes. And better pilots, not me, but better pilots will preempt the need for more power and we'll just add a little bit of extra power before the turn. Turn off the co-pilot's windscreen wipers. Good, annoying. I hope you'll agree the graphics on this are very, very nice. Very nice. Where should we park? We should park in there. Go off the next one. Give our passengers a jetway so they don't get wet. I've got no power on whatsoever, but the aircraft is actually trying to accelerate for the simple fact that we've burned a lot of our weight off. So just with minimal engine power, these do roll. Oh, that was a terrible job of parking. Obviously we don't have marshallers. Don't think I've done a bad job there, fine. Yeah, that'll do. That'll do. Okay, let's park and brake. It's not working for some reason. Home, ground services, set chocks. So I'm plugging the GPU and the ESU. What do we do in here? We need to turn on the ground power. And then we can turn off the fuel to the engines. And with the fuel to the engines off, we can then turn off the, oh no, put seatbelts on, so seatbelts are already off. At this point you would turn the seatbelt signs off, and then everyone would stand up and start getting their luggage for some reason, even though they'd be stuck on the ground for a little bit longer. Put the dome light on bright. So we're on ground power. Turn off that bloody wiper. There we go. Turn the lights off, so taxi lights are off. Logo light is on. Anti-collision is off because the engines are off. And turn that light off as well. What else do we need to do here? Should we go through the checklist? Go back. Checklist. Shut down. Parking brake is set. APU generator bus. It's not on. It's off because it's on ground power. Source off lights. Engine start levers off. Fasten seatbelts off. Anti-collision light off. Fuel pump. Cabin util as needed. IFE, I'm not going to touch them. Wing anti-ice. Can turn these off. Wing anti-ice off. Hydraulic panel. Hydraulic pumps can all go off. Ooh, engine hydraulic pumps should remain on. Interesting. Engine pumps on. Electric pumps off. Recirc found. Don't worry about that. Pack switches. Auto isolation valve. Engine bleed is still on. APU bleed doesn't matter because APU is off. Exterior lights are off. Flight director is off. Transponder to. Oh, hang on. Wrong button. Standby. Standby APU switch is off. Shutdown checklist complete. Securing the aircraft. IRS modes. IRF selectors to off. Where's my thing? There it is. Emergency exit lights is the shielded thing here. Let them off. Off. Window heat is off. Pack switches off and off. Turn off the ground power. I guess we turn off the battery as well. Battery off. Oh, hang on. Off. And then our aircraft is secure. And here we are at Lille. So I hope you enjoyed that. I'm quite happy with that very, very flicky landing. Very, very happy with XP12. I think it is coming on leaps and bounds. Every single release just improves the experience of this flight sim so much. So there we go. Hope to see you again. Have a great new year. Hope 2024 is a really good year for you. And hopefully we'll get some more videos out throughout the year. Hope to see you soon. All the best.